And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Joining us now is best-selling author Gregory May, author of Jefferson's Treasure, How Albert Gallatin Saved the New Nation from Debt. Mr. May, good morning.
Good morning.
So we've heard about Alexander Hamilton. We've heard about Thomas Jefferson. Who was Mr. Gallatin?
Gallatin was Jefferson's Secretary of the Treasury and the man who Jefferson and Madison kept in that position so that he could begin to dismantle Alexander Hamilton's financial system, which they strongly opposed.
Right, that was one of the unique struggles between Jefferson and Hamilton, the idea of a national bank. Who ended up winning in the end? Was it the Jeffersonian ideas or the Hamiltonians?
Well, I suppose that depends upon what time frame we're looking at. At the time, the Jeffersonians won. They repaid the national debt by 1835. They got rid of the national bank. And until the early 20th century, the country ran on principles of fiscal responsibility, running up debt only in times of war and crisis and repaying it in peacetime, and without a national bank. So the system that we have today really began to be re-erected in the early 20th century, and it is fairly called a Hamiltonian system because it's more like the system that Hamilton had in mind. But he didn't really found it. We had a gap of about 100 years.
Indeed, that's what I've always heard. So going back to the times of Jefferson, our third president, what were the big struggles for this nation? Obviously, the Louisiana Purchase. You had other issues. How did they fund this endeavor?
Well, the biggest struggle for the new nation was the trade difficulties created by the Napoleonic Wars in Europe. Both Britain and France, which were the two great powers in the world at the time, tried to use trade restrictions to weaken each other. And American trade, neutral trade, was caught in the middle. That ultimately led us into war with Britain in 1812, which was particularly unfortunate because we were funding the federal government almost entirely from the revenue collected from import duties. Indeed, that was true throughout the 19th century. Most of the federal revenue came from import duties. So trade disruptions disrupted revenue, and that really played havoc with the kind of frugal fiscal system that the Jeffersonians wanted.
So what about Mr. Gallatin? What role did he play?
Well, as Secretary of the Treasury for 12 years, he was really the pivotal person running the government. The Treasury at that point employed 90% of federal employees. It essentially was the government from an operating point of view. It was in charge of everything from collecting import duties to public lands to even things like lighthouses and hospitals for seamen. So he was pretty much in charge of the whole government during that 12-year period, longer than any Treasury Secretary has ever served.
Why do you think that is, that the Secretary of Treasuries don't last?
Well, nowadays it's difficult, I suppose, for anyone to last in a long time in stressful administrative positions. Not that they weren't stressful then, but the world was different. Also, we're in much more politically volatile times. During this Jeffersonian period, after the Jeffersonian Republicans won in the elections in 1800 and 1801, we had a period of remarkable political stability for about 25, 30 years in which we almost had one-party government.
I don't think that'll be happening today.
Probably not.
Anything else you'd like to share with us today about Mr. Gallatin? And Mr. May, why did you pick this subject for your book?
Well, of the people who really had a lot to do with founding the American nation, Gallatin is clearly the most forgotten, the least understood. And in a way, that's profoundly problematic because the whole founding of the American nation had to do with a fight over how we were going to manage our money.
Fights that are still going on today.
Indeed.
Well, Mr. May, if people want to pick up your book, what can they do?
It's available everywhere. Of course, everything is on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and other booksellers also have this book.
Again, Jefferson's Treasure, How Albert Gallatin Saved the New Nation from Debt. Thank you, sir.
Good to talk to you.
All right. Very exciting stuff here today. We go to R&R. Good morning. Are you an Albert Gallatin fan?
I am without hesitancy. Indeed. I love it when I hear you say indeed. That's definitely
Indeed.
from the people of the South.
Ah, yes. Our beloved friends of the South.
My message today is I have done some research, and if I use two words anywhere near star, and I say monarch of the Merc, the people will smile inside the Merc. That place is an unbelievable time treasure. So here's my offer. I made it last week. I am a huge proponent of giving voice to the people that are incarcerated in those walls in the prison system of Idaho, and I know that they cannot have their telephones paid. So as of this roll of the dice, there's $100 at the Merc in seed money. So you can pay some phone bills for, I don't know who they are, but I understand there's people trying to reach you by telephone.
You are correct on that.
I heard that.
Now you're saying that if I go to the Merc and say, "Hey, my name is Kevin Miller," there's $100 waiting for me.
Waiting for you for the cause.
Wow.
And you know exactly where it'll be, where they sell the tobacco, the Backy station. So that $100 is to apply to the voice of the incarcerated. There's men there that didn't pay their child support. There's men there that got caught for stupid stuff. Everybody gets stupid. And I know there's men listening to your voice. So, and
what do you make of the secret, the dirty little secret of the prison system here in Idaho? That no one wants to talk about.
My voice is I spent 20 years in the state of Oregon, and it's more corrupt than Idaho will ever think about being. That was my career. So what I think is pretty much I'm going to let pro-choice, that's his ministry. I've collected my dime for working. I think it's excellent, honestly, since you asked. I think it's excellent that it's gone back to state. There's way too much money being made by the private sector. And there's people listening to my voice right now. This is my professional opinion. That was my career. And it's all in the name, by the way, Mr. Miller. And I want to drop a name on you this morning. I think Caroline is your muse. I've had 2 dachshunds in my life, and they changed my life forever.
Oh, I would agree with you, Carolina Miller and little Buster Miller. Yes, it's funny when everybody says they always talk about wiener dogs. No, they're great dogs. Those little Prussians.
They're inch for inch and centimeter for centimeter and gram for gram ferocity. Love you, Kay Millie.
R&R. God bless. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Love you too. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. By the way, I want to thank everybody for listening last week to the Best Ofs. Ray, great job. It was wonderful to get a little time off, but I have to tell you, for the first time in years, usually when people take vacations, they say, "Oh, I'm tired," and all these sorts of things, and I need a break. For me, I found myself at night trying to sleep, and I did go to Oregon. and it was 60 degrees there. It was okay. I found a lot of people smoking dope, and I found a lot of people building fires around this place I was staying that you really shouldn't be building fires around. And I don't know if it was the excessive heat in the Pacific Northwest or the Mountain West, but everybody was driving relatively crazy, so much so that it seemed like the driving here was normal. And I found myself waking up to just replays of calls, your interaction with me from Liberty Linda and Tea Party Bob and Cindy and Terry, and it was, I just missed everybody. And for me, I missed being with you. And that was, we had such an incredible role a couple weeks ago. I hope that we can replicate that. And we can do so now at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And there were so many things going on last week. You've got what happened in Seattle with the plane. You've got Omarosa, if you missed it yesterday, from that liberal show, Meet the Press. We'll get to it. But I just want to say that I missed our daily interaction. And it's been years since I felt that way. So, people say people earn time off. Look, I'm going to apologize for taking time off because, quite frankly, the people that are really working are the ones that are up right now, whether you're doing physical labor, whether you're doing anything else, working in the heat. I don't know how people can work in temperatures exceeding triple digits. But the mortgage company, the credit card company, the bean counters, they don't seem to care that it's triple digits, that it's dangerous. And it always amazes me when people complain about the heat. I'll be the first to complain about it. But being in the heat, building the roads, gosh knows we're building roads and we're paving and repaving. So big ups to the people working in the heat. God bless you. And hope everything is going well. By the way, if you missed Meet the Depressed yesterday, you won't believe what one former Trump staffer, one of the most loyal people ever to the president, had to say about him. Why does the scorpion sting? Because they're scorpions. We'll explain next. You're listening to 580 AM, 107.5 FM, Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
I have heard for 2 years that it existed, and once I heard it for myself, it was confirmed what I feared the most, that Donald Trump is a con and has been masquerading as someone who is actually open to engaging with diverse communities. But when he talks that way, the way he did on this tape, it confirmed that he is truly a racist.
There we have it. Boy, what a way to start your Monday, not only fighting the smoky effects of the massive fires. Let's see, we can put a man on the moon, and we can do all these other things, but we can't figure out how to stop western forest fires. Good morning, Kevin Miller on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And there you have a young lady by the name of Omarosa, and she's a reality star. I believe she was in the first or second season of The Apprentice. Our friend Troy McClain could probably bear some light on her. She's been with Donald Trump for a long time, and, sooner or later, all good runs come to an end, and she was fired from the White House. Well, she went on Meet the Press yesterday, and, these fuddy-duddy shows, they always look at themselves as, Meet the Press is such a great standard. To be on Meet the Press, even though some of the other shows get higher ratings, Meet the Press is the standard. It's the longest-running show on television. So Omarosa gets on there, a reality star that 3 or 4 months ago, she was on the CBS reality show Big Brother. She went from being fired at the White House, from the White House, to being on Big Brother. So there's her credibility. So because she was fired, she's turned on Donald Trump, and she's had this epiphany that Trump, the president, is a racist. And Chuck Todd and the gang of usual suspects from Meet the Depressed just started ripping on the president and saying there's a secret tape lurking around where the president says the N-word. Now, not to be desensitized to our oversensitivity towards race these days, but people many years ago used to say things that are, reprehensible today. You have a lot of things that were common slang, and I'm not defending the use of the N-word, but are we really going to fire people for using it? Well, we did with Donald Sterling. We did with Papa John's. Boy, you talk about a guy who has gone from the height of success, Papa John, and now they're booting him out of his own company. Sorry, Papa. But here you have Omarosa on Meet the Press just saying anything and everything to discredit a guy that gave her everything.
He has a nickname for everyone in his administration and in his circle, so I am pretty certain that he's probably said some very derogatory things about me. In fact, yesterday, on this moment before Charlottesville, the anniversary of Charlottesville, instead of talking about how to unify the nation, he actually insulted me by calling me a lowlife. That is a man who is inclined to start racially charged engagement and use race to kind of stir up his base.
There we have it. Omarosa, a political expert, never been involved in politics. Again, she's been on these reality shows, The Apprentice, The Celebrity Apprentice. A very manipulative, a very polarizing person at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And again, whether it's Robert Mueller, whether it's Omarosa, whether it's anything else, there's nothing that these folks will do to try and derail Donald J. Trump, the guy that has given us Gorsuch, the guy that's about ready to give us Kavanaugh, the most secure, conservative Supreme Court that we've had in years. And yet, we have Omarosa, who has about as much credibility as, anybody else, ripping the president of the United States. And I love how the liberal media, the libs, Libville, decides to give her such a ton of credit for this. It is crazy when you think about it. I'm sitting there watching it with a straight face going, wow, this woman is very charismatic, very cunning, and really desperately seeking to sell her book.
I was complicit with this White House deceiving this nation. They continue to deceive this nation by how mentally declined he is, how difficult it is for him to process complex information, how he is not engaged in some of the most important decisions that impacts our country. I was complicit, and for that, I regret.
Right. Of course, she regrets being fired. So Donald Trump can't speak, can't talk, has a diminished mental capacity. And yet the economy is roaring. People are ready to roll. People are happy. I guess we should go back to Obama and the good times we had under him. Traffic and weather together. Our time is 6:26. Rick Everett.
In this book, I describe this long journey of hearing these rumors over and over again. And when I had an opportunity to meet up with 3 different sources, they described the same exact statements. After I closed the book, I had an opportunity to go out in Los Angeles and sit down with the person who actually has a copy of the tape. And I heard his voice as clear as you and I are sitting here.
So there we have it. There's a tape looming where Donald Trump says a bad word. Okay? He without sin cast the first stone. This is the lead story politically nationally where Omarosa trashes Donald Trump. Do you find her credible? 580-5436. 580-KIDO. I certainly do not. And then we have the situation where Omarosa brags about when she was fired. They bring her into the Situation Room. No, that's not a name of a TV show with Wolf Blitzer. Well, it is, but it actually... there's a Situation Room, right? Maybe you've seen 24 or Homeland or one of the, and they put people in the Situation Room. Well, Omarosa goes in and they fire her. And she says that she was threatened and everything else. Well, look, when you work for the federal government, when you work at the government at the highest levels, you're not just going to go to HR and out the door, right? You're not. By the way, before we hear the John Kelly tapes, here's what the president had to say about his former apprentice.
Does everybody like the press? No. Do you think the media is fair? No. Tell the truth. I better not go any further.
Send him back out the way.
Low life. She's a low life.
All right. 580-5436. Do you find her credible or a lowlife? A very easy one on this beautiful Monday morning with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Let's find out what's happening in your world. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
And rolling along, coming up, Doug, Liberal Steve, and Hank. Is Omarosa a lowlife or credible? Before that, we go to our friend Simon Owen from Fox News Radio. Simon, good morning.
Kevin, morning.
Good to have you with us here at KIDO Talk Radio. So, a big meeting today, today, between the leaders of North and South Korea.
Well, it's actually their top officials who've been meeting in the past few hours on the North Korea-South Korea border. They were getting together to see if they could agree to a plan to bring the leaders of these two countries together again for a third summit in roughly 6 months. And the news that we've had in the past few hours is they have managed to agree on that, and it took about 2 hours, so it's a pretty swift agreement. And a joint statement from the country says that they have agreed that something will happen next month. We don't have a precise date, but we do have a location. It's going to be in the North Korean capital, Pyongyang. And this would be the first time that the South Korean leader has been to that city since 2007. So they didn't hold any of these inter-Korea summits for more than a decade, and now we're looking at probably 3 in the space of 6 months.
Amazing. We'll see how that plays out. Of course, nuclear weapons, troops, probably some of the bigger issues there, right?
Yes, I mean, I suspect part of this as well, or certainly some experts are saying that President Moon of South Korea may be hoping to act as a mediator, because tensions are beginning to resurface between North Korea and the United States, and that is the key relationship here. It's important if North Korea and South Korea can be friends, and they have been increasingly friendly in recent months. But the key relationship, with all the tensions of the past year or so, is North Korea and the United States. 12 months ago, roughly, they were threatening nuclear war against each other. That is not the case today, but a fair amount of water has run under the bridge since June, when President Trump and Kim Jong-un met for their historic summit in Singapore. Primarily, the North Korean problem with this is when the U.S. should relax sanctions on the North Korean economy. Now, the United States has said from the start that can only happen when North Korea abandons its nuclear weapons program for good. But North Korea said recently that is a gangster-like demand. It says it's made a series of goodwill gestures recently. That should be enough for some sanctions relief. So South Korea may look at this latest meeting they've just agreed as a chance to see if those wrinkles can be smoothed out.
Simon, any idea how this is viewed? We kind of get an idea how it's viewed in America, but what about in Europe, these talks? Is that a big deal over there?
Well, I think it's largely seen as a matter for the U.S. and North Korea and the South Koreans, and the concern really, where this is really closely watched, is other regional partners of the United States. So the Japanese are the main ones at the moment, because from that summit in June, President Trump's big decision there was he halted U.S.-South Korea joint military exercises, and the South Korean reaction to that suggested that they hadn't been briefed on that before the meeting took place, but they sort of rallied around it because the South Korean president is very keen for there to be a warming in relations between all these countries. The Japanese are much more open about the fact that they weren't comfortable with this. They said that these kind of drills are important for regional security, and they made it pretty clear that they were uneasy about those exercises being abandoned. Now, as for European countries, I mean, if you measure Pyongyang to London, it's actually a shorter distance than Pyongyang to Los Angeles would be. So technically, if North Korea could hit the United States, then it could hit Europe as well. But really, the threats don't come the Europeans' way. It's all about the United States.
Simon, we appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Simon Owen, always in-depth, always a professional, unlike this young lady.
I have heard for 2 years that it existed, and once I heard it for myself, it was confirmed what I feared the most, that Donald Trump is a con and has been masquerading as someone who is actually open to engaging with diverse communities. But when he talks that way, the way he did on this tape, it confirmed that he is truly a racist.
Wow. Again, what is that where you rescue the snake or the scorpion and then they stab you and they say, hey, I rescued you, and The scorpion says, well, I'm a scorpion. I'm supposed to do that. And they both drown. Anyway, Omarosa, that's what we're speaking about this morning. Let's go to Doug, Mountain Home. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Hey, Doug.
Hi, how are you? Glad you're back. Listening to you're Ray done a good job, Kevin, but listening to the reruns to me is like going around the same road coming by a dead horse all the time. Sorry, but anyway, this gal, I don't know, it's just like what you see in Oregon. Didn't you just say you seen a bunch of people smoking pot? Well, there you go. Where were you in Oregon?
Lincoln City.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. Sometimes you sort of wish Trump would keep his lips shut at times, but in other times I'd be saying the same kind of stuff. The thing of it is I know Obama, he knows I'm good well. He's racist, and he says whatever he feels like saying. It's just the news media would never say nothing about it. You know what I mean?
I agree. Obama got the pass.
Yeah, exactly. You can't tell me he doesn't hate whites. He does. I'm sorry. I got black people that are friends of mine. You know? You got good white people, you got bad white people. You got bad black people, you got good black people. You got good races of all colors. And it's too bad that N-word gets thrown around, but it's been there forever. And everybody uses it, and if you say you don't, you're a damn liar. So he's caught up in the political, and everybody hates him on that side. That's all I got to say, Kevin.
All right, Doug, we appreciate you. Thank you, brother. Safe driving today. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We go to Liberal Steve, who joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, sir.
The Miller clock is on the table. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Omarosa. She learned, she's like a Trump. She's the perfect female Trump. I think it's great. She learned so much from the guy with the reality show and all his books and reading all his books. And this is her third book, Miller. Third book. I haven't written one book yet. Have you written any books yet?
Coloring book.
Yeah, me too. And my lines are all fuzzy. So, yeah, she's doing a great job. And I'm a little upset that she went after Chuck Todd. He was asking her serious questions about, hey, you said this before, and now you're saying this. You said this before, and now you're saying this.
I think Chuck is kind of a swarmy weasel.
I think Chuck needs to watch those hair transplant commercials a little closer.
It happens to all of us, doesn't it, there, brother?
Hey, and what's with the chain migration? And
so, do you find her credible or not? Really, she was on Big Brother a couple weeks ago, which is the CBS show where you all live in a house and people film you on camera. How credible is this person?
Oh, come on. They're all Hollywood. Trump's Hollywood. They're all a bunch of cons.
I think he's New York.
I was complicit with this White House deceiving this nation. They continue to deceive this nation by how mentally declined he is, how difficult it is for him to process complex information, how he is not engaged in some of the most important decisions that impacts our country. I was complicit, and for that, I regret.
Well, she's got a point there about him being mentally declined. He kept going on during his campaign about chain migration. Then he brought Melania's parents in, and her dad was and still is a big-time communist with the Communist Party. And I wonder if he's going to draw SSI since he's that old now from the U.S., like everybody else that comes in on chain migration that you say they pull. Anyway, Miller, you stay fired up. Omarosa. Hey, you got to do what you got to do, Kevin. No one else will put the money in your wallet. And, Doug, I just want to say, I'm sorry.
You've talked for 2.5 minutes, and you've said absolutely nothing.
You talked for 2.5 minutes and said absolutely nothing. Why don't you just push a button?
You know what they say, imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
Why don't you, there you go. Sky pilot, how high can you fly? What are they putting in the marijuana in Washington, crashing into islands? Wow. And he was a football player in Valley City, North Dakota. They drafted him from Alaska way back in the day. Poor kid. It's sad. I'm sorry for his family, but hey, Life goes on. Ask people in Yemen. Stay fired up, Kevin.
I think Liberal Steve missed us. If you're just waking up, at one time, one of the president's most trusted advisors, Omarosa, has gone on the attack with a new book. The president responding.
Does everybody like the press? You think the media is fair?
Tell the truth.
I better not go any further. I better not go any further.
Send him back out the way.
Low life. She's a low life.
Hank in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Well, she sounds like the typical disgruntled employee who wants to make money off of a book or exploit the situation. I might point out that two Democratic presidents who are considered civil rights icons used the N-word all the time in private conversation. One was Harry Truman, that was pointed out by Mr. Miller in Plain Speaking, and Robert Carroll on Lyndon Johnson in his multi-volume biography of Lyndon Johnson. In other words, both of these people use the so-called quote-unquote N-word in private conversations all the time, even up to the end of their lives. And and it's amazing, how there's a double standard on this. That's permissible because they're Democrats and they're so-called civil rights icons, but Johnson particularly was very cynical on the issue. He played with the white segregationists with Richard Russell of Georgia, and because he was dependent on their support to become majority leader of the Senate in the 1950s, and he played Senator Talmadge of Georgia like a string, another notorious racist on a string, but. When it came into the presidency, or when it came to his national ambitions, he was very quick to chuck his old Southern buddies aside. So I mean, I don't see where the members of the press don't have any problems whatsoever with that with Lyndon Johnson or heaven forbid if a Republican says anything of the sort. I mean, it's very apparent that when we say the word the press is biased, it really is inadequate. It's basically the mainstream media is an arm of the Democratic Party, and I think that should be seen that way. And
right. Well, what do you? And we've covered this before, Hank. But what do you make of Omarosa?
I don't find her particularly credible. I think she's perfectly been justified just by listening to her. She's the type of person that you do not want around you. This is a person who's totally disloyal. I mean, this is a person that you do not. It's obvious that Trump did the right thing by firing her. By her tone, her attitude, and everything else, she's a totally disloyal type of person, a snake in the pit. And I think he did the right thing in firing her, and by her behavior that she displayed, I can see why he did it.
All right, Hank, thank you very much. Coming up, John Kelly being taped. Do you agree with that? Plus, good old Omarosa, she's back. What do you think? Next, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning talking about Omarosa. By the way, Omarosa has appeared on, the Today Show. We'll give you that in a minute. But first, traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning.
7's Eric Gebert.
And thank you, Larry. So coming up, you'll hear this on the Today Show, but you'll hear it here first on KIDO Talk Radio. Savannah Guthrie with Omarosa.
He's not a racist. First of all, you say that was the day after you left.
First of all, I had just come out of, like you said, the day after I left, I had just been threatened by General Kelly, who said that things could get ugly for me, that there would be damage to my reputation. So I was being very careful because I came out of that situation room. I was terrified.
Well, why?
I was concerned about I'm almost done.
Yeah.
I was very concerned about my well-being, about what these powerful people would do to me after they threatened me. And clearly, after they released the story that I was running around the White House, which we now know to be not true. So I was being very cautious about what I said as to not upset these folks who still, in fact, have my belongings, who are saying that they won't return them. And in fact, someone told me in the White House that they had destroyed some of my personal effects. And I want them back, Savannah.
What about mental health? That was another part of the interview. You said that
I'm almost.
You would talk about the book is called Unhinged.
You know that we have an interview right after this,
Yeah.
and I know that you want to go with more time. But I will answer your last question, and you see that the time is.
Yeah. What time do you need to go?
No, you know that it's a 7-minute interview. Now we're at 10.
Are we? I don't know.
I
actually don't know the time. But if you want to answer it, if you got to go,
I'm going to say this to you. The book comes out tomorrow. All of this is in the book, and I hope that your viewers will take an opportunity to read it and learn about this incredible journey that I had for 15 years with the President of the United States and every single thing that you've heard on that.
The incredible journey from the president who she calls a racist, the president who she calls mentally diminished. Is that gratitude in the year 2018? My goodness gracious. We're just getting started. Thank you for joining us. Dave Petso coming up next. Remember, you can always podcast our show on our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com. Good morning.